Welcome to Walk the Word, and today we're going to be pausing to pray again. And today what I want us to do is to focus on the cost of living crisis. There's so much that we could spend time praying for and talking about around this. Many of us will know that energy prices are very much going up. The consequence of that is that food prices are going up. We've seen this week that the pound is starting to fall against other currencies, and the consequence of this is that the cost of living is going up and up and up, and actually for many of us our finances are starting to become a struggle. We're starting to have to think about the choices that we make as those costs go up and as wages and our incomes currently don't. And we could spend a lot of time talking about that, but actually what I want us to do is to pray about it. And there's three things that I want us to pray for. First of all, I want us to pray for the current situation in Ukraine, because a lot of the starting point, the trigger for this, is the war in Ukraine and therefore the supply of fuel coming into the country. And so we want to pray that there would be peace in Ukraine, that the war would come to an end. And although the press coverage of it's still there, but it's nowhere near as high as it was originally. Actually, on the ground, it's still very much front and centre. It's still going on. The war is still happening. The consequences of that are far-reaching. And so I want to encourage you to just pray simply for peace in that place, peace in Ukraine, for President Zelensky and for Vladimir Putin and for the other leaders that are involved in it, that peace would come in that region. And that's a great thing to pray on its own, but it's also going to have an effect on what's happening here in the UK in terms of the cost of living too. Secondly, I want us to pray for our own government and our own leaders. The recently appointed Prime Minister Liz Truss and the government that she's put into place. I want us to pray for them that they would make godly, wise decisions in the midst of this crisis. It's such a difficult thing to be in leadership in the first place, particularly in times of turmoil, and it's so easy to sit back and go, I would make a different decision, I'd do something different. And actually sometimes it might feel like things aren't going particularly well. But for any of us that have been in leadership, we know that things aren't always that simple. And there's so much that they will be contending with at the moment. And more importantly, the Bible calls us to pray for our leaders. And so I want us to be praying for our leaders, for our government, that they would make godly policy that pursues after the kingdom, wise policy that is going to help us come out of this situation in the best way that we can, policy that looks to serve the poor, that looks to help those that are the most vulnerable. So let's pray for the government, for all of those things. And thirdly, I want us to pray for the gospel opportunity. Actually, as you look through church history, so often it's times of crisis, times of difficulty, is when God really breaks in, where we see him move in a bigger, more obvious way. You look back at revival history, and so often it's those moments, it's the moments of real hardship and real difficulty that God breaks through. And so often it's in the poorest communities that it starts, those that are most affected by those situations. And so let's be praying that in this season, as the squeeze comes on, as things get hard for people, as more people end up in poverty, as those that are already in poverty, things get harder, actually, that God would break in. That God would break in as our physical needs increase. That also an awareness of our need in the nation for God and our spiritual need will increase at the same time. Let's pray that it gets people to ask bigger questions. It gets people to think about bigger things, looking for an answer. And we know that answer is Jesus. He's the one who can provide everything for us physically, provide everything for us spiritually, provide everything that we need. He is the answer in everything. And so let's be praying that there would be an outpouring of the Spirit in this season, that we would see God move, that we would see more people saved in this nation than we have for a long time, that we would see more people healed in this nation than we have done in a long time, that we would see people finding breakthrough in areas of provision than we have done in a long time, that we would see a breakthrough in mental health in this country, in this season. That actually, as crisis hits, it will be the point that God chooses to break in and reveal himself as the real answer, the only answer in the long term. So as we think about the cost of living crisis and everything that's going on in our country at the moment, let's pray for peace in Ukraine. Pray for the people of Ukraine. Pray for peace, that the war would end, and that the consequences of that war and the trigger that it started elsewhere would stop. Secondly, let's pray for our leaders, that they would make godly, wise decisions that pursue after the kingdom. And thirdly, let's pray for kingdom opportunity. Kingdom opportunity, that God would come and break in by his Spirit, that this would be not only a season of crisis, but a season of revival. That more than a season of crisis, when it's looked back on in history, it will be known as a season of revival, where God broke in and God showed that he was the answer. God bless. I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow again on All the Word.